The 43rd season on the Eberspecher Luge World Cup Tour continues now in Innsbruck, Austria with the BMW Sprint World Cup. We've got men to be followed by the doubles, then the women's to conclude the second weekend of racing this season in the beautiful Tyrolean Alps. The temperature is warming up a little bit here. Actually, in the first run earlier today for the women, it was warmer, then it cooled down. Now the sun has been shining all day long, and so as morning turns to afternoon in Austria, very comfortable for the spectators, if there were spectators. Hi again, everyone. I'm Tim Singer. Here's a look at the track, and to tell us a little bit more about Innsbruck competition here and this very unique, somewhat strange sprint format, I'm pleased to introduce 1998 Olympic silver medalist Gordy Scheer. Welcome back, Gordy.
Tim, always a pleasure to be here talking about the beautiful track in Innsbruck. From the top here, we're seeing the start ramp, a nice long run into curve one. This track is really all about gliding and letting the sled run. It's not what we call a driver's track necessarily. Entering the upper labyrinth portion of the track here. Series of left, right, left, three corners, kind of touch on, touch off. These labyrinth corners are required in any track. This is the 270-degree Kreisel portion, followed by some more flowing tracks. Again, good position on the sled will be rewarded. You see an athlete picking their head up, they're losing time. You see them brushing the right wall like we did right there. They're losing time. This is the lower labyrinth. This is all about rhythm in this lower section here. Really catching that pocket and then driving, catching the pocket, driving, and then going up the hill to the finish line right here.
Touch on, touch off sounds like one of Mr. Miyagi's training regiments. 15 have qualified. These were the top 15 yesterday in the men's singles competition, and they will go in reverse order. Rositas was 15th. Locke was the winner, as he's been 8 out of 9 races this year. Should be fun. It should be spirited. And one thing about the sprint format, love it or hate it or everything in between, Gordy, it does tend to yield unpredictable results.
It does. One of the things that they've done is try and place a premium on driving skill, and by doing that they've just really moved the starting eye further down the hill here and taking the start out of it just a bit.
Rositas qualified for just one of the 2 World Cup sprints this year. That was the second one in Winterberg. Oddly, of the 3 World Cup events this year, 2 are here in Innsbruck. Gordy, I'm not sure if that's because Lake Placid originally, or Pyeongchang originally was going to host it, which this event was originally supposed to be at. But it seems a little strange that it didn't shift that around.
Well, Lake Placid was scheduled to host a sprint as well, so I think they've got to make up events. There's going to be one in St. Moritz, Tim, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay, I'm not sure. My sources tell me this is it.
Oh, okay.
This
yeah,
will be the final sprint.
Yeah.
Which means a relay in St. Moritz will take place likely, and that'll be interesting.
Indeed. So this is curve 9 exit.
Rositas down with a time of 32.682. Again, that's not a track record time because this is a much different format. And let's talk now about where this clock starts and what are the key strategies to do better here as opposed to a classic race, if any.
Well, you want to carry as much speed as possible. This is the exit of curve 3 where you're going to see that green light. That's where the timer begins. So really, it's all about carrying speed to that point. Egger did not have a great start, so he will have built a little bit less speed, but the good news in this format is that there's some forgiveness.
A disappointing 14th place finish by Reinhard Egger in yesterday's race, which may have knocked him off of the World Championship team. But he makes the sprint competition. He has a chance to atone. And finds that time down at the bottom to hold on to a top 14 position. All in all, a disappointing weekend.
Yeah. Well, the other interesting thing about this format is the cadence. The sleds move a lot faster. There's less downtime between the sleds. I think it's a 20-second countdown, if I'm not mistaken, Tim.
That's right, and that's why we have the split screen. We will see Reinhard walk off as we see the next athlete start, which in this case is Chris Eisler, first of 4 Germans in today's race. 4 Germans, 4 Austrians.
Eisler with a nice looking start. You saw Egger with a little bit of an issue at his start as Chris Eisler breaks the first timing eye.
And there are actually 5 Germans making up 1/3 of the field.
Wow.
A little later today in the women's sprint competition, more than half the field are Germans and Americans. 4 USA, 4 Germany.
The other thing interesting about this format is they give you an entry speed heading into the first timing eye.
And I guess it differs from track to track how significant that speed is. 32.671, the second place time for the German, trailing Reinhard Egger, who not only has the lead, but we forgot to give him a plug earlier. He provided that great point of view sled camera look at the beginning of the show.
Drops out of curve 9. Good form check. Toes pointed, head back.
Hard to believe it's already week number 8 out of 10 this season on the FIL Luge World Cup. Moritz Bowman now on course. And again, normally in a World Cup, Gordy, 5 men race per country, or a maximum of 5. World Championships only 4. So there's some jockeying still happening this weekend in Innsbruck.
Yeah, for the teams that can or choose to fill out a full squad, you know, there is definitely some selection to take place. A little rough here, still a little bit offline, not quite as smooth, but time is not necessarily reflecting that right now. But there we go, dropping back just a little bit.
Reinhard Egger will live to see at least one more in the leader box. 2/200ths of a second back, 19 thousandths. The 2 Germans trail the Austrian, with the first Russian getting ready to go at the top.
This is curve 10. Those blue dots are not for the athletes to drive, but really they're more for a reference for us. Thought I saw a little bit of a cross from curve 10 into 11.
Roman Repelov, to say his season has been disappointing would be an understatement, and to say his race yesterday was disappointing would be beyond an understatement. And this is a guy who has not dominated, but has been probably the best in the world entering this year over the last 3 seasons.
Yeah, a little bit confusing as to where this speed for this Russian team really generally across the board. Not entirely. There's been certainly some bright spots, but it seemed like last year they were a little bit stronger. Last couple of years, very high line in curve 10.
Yeah, I just noticed that, but it sets him up pretty well for the Labyrinth, where he's clean and in the green, well in the green. And he has the lead with a 32.529. Wolfie Kindle up next for Austria. Kindle very good in this discipline. So we'll see, we'll get a really early indication how Repelov's time will stand.
Here's that 9 to 10 transition right on that right wall. Maybe he got knocked back a little bit, but you can also see that they've actually lowered curve 10. Curve 10 used to be much taller, and in a safety maneuver, they actually lowered it to give the athletes less chance to drive some really crazy lines.
Now Kindle, who captured the World Championship sprint race on this track in 2017, 2 days before winning the World Championship 2-heat race on his biggest weekend ever in the sport. His speed is the 4th fastest, 82.3, but you can see all of those speeds are within a 1/10 of a kilometer or so from one another.
Very tight racing in Innsbruck. Eagles here. It's hard to believe that you know, 2017 seems like a lifetime ago.
That was a sprint weekend where Aaron Hamlin took gold for the United States, just USA's third ever world championship. 7 thousandths of a second.
Wow.
Kindle trails Rapilov. You mentioned about 30 seconds ago things are very tight here. You don't get much tighter than that.
Yeah, it just shows the strength and competitiveness of the men's field. Upper labyrinth here. Curves 4, 5, and 6.
Now the youngest athlete in today's race, 18-year-old Jens Bergens of Latvia. Last year, he captured gold at the Youth Olympics on the long natural track in St. Moritz, Switzerland, where the tour will conclude this season in 2 weeks. A very early end to the season this year, Gordy.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the teams do with their remaining time. Really all of February and March. We'll see a lot of development. High line, the exit of curve 9 there. But it'll be interesting to see if there's a lot of development going on in terms of sled technology for the last 2 months of the season and what next year looks like, especially being an Olympic season.
Bergens was just 5 thousandths of a second back at the middle split. Ends up 1/10 of a second back in third place. Early going here, 7 of the 15 have come down. It's Russia, Austria, Latvia, the top 3 at the moment.
Not the cleanest line through curve 9. Kind of one-runnered it off. Get that little rebound where you go on the left runner. But overall, not a bad run.
Felix Locke will be the last to go in this BMW sprint competition. He's won 8 of the 9 races held this year on the World Cup. The only other race was won by Max Langenhahn, who took it in a sprint, the last sprint competition, which was held in December in Winterberg, Germany.
It'll be interesting to see if he can carry that momentum and driving ability again here in the sprint. 100th back.
There will be, of course, one more sprint event, and that's next week. That's at the World Championship. And it's the only event, Gordy, where the sprint kicks off the racing action for the weekend.
Right, he's building time here.
8 thousandths up to 27 thousandths up, 32.502. A look at the statuesque Armin Zugler standing trackside watching the big screen as Langenhahn takes the lead for Germany.
He didn't seem particularly happy with that run. Looks like he got a little early onto curve 9, a little, maybe too much cross between curves 8 and 9, perhaps.
I believe Langenhahn's spot on the World Championship team is pretty safe for Germany. It'll be Bowman, Blay, and Eisler battling for that fourth spot. Now the first of the Italians, Kevin Fischnaller, on board. He finished 7th yesterday in the World Cup race.
Italians here on their home track in the green. Not surprising. This is a format that might award their sliding style.
Fastest speed we've seen so far, 79.5 miles per hour.
Very smooth run, not a lot of noise, not a lot of drama.
Track record, all things being relative, 32.421. But when you consider they did hold a sprint here in November, track record is somewhat important. That was a much warmer day, however.
Yeah, no, I think there's some weight in that track record. I think it's significant.
Excellent. So most significantly, it puts them 800ths up on everyone else with 6 to follow, next of whom is Kevin's cousin from Miransen, Südtirol, Dominic Fischnaller.
First few curves are all about building speed, carrying it down to the starting eye right here at the exit of curve 3.
Sixth fastest speed, 6 places where Dominic finished yesterday in the 2-run Classic World Cup race. That's about as low as you generally see Dominic in the standings.
But we do see green. Up.
Now
And I open
red.
my mouth, and what happens?
That's
oh.
And he nearly grabbed that right wall out of curve 9.
Stayed very cool and calm, but I don't think did not do himself any favors in terms of speed and time.
Third place time right now, 32.526. And you know, Gordy, just yesterday I was saying that Fischnaller really makes fewer mistakes than anyone in the sport. He didn't do anything major there, but this was a little interesting.
Oh,
not bad, right?
No, maybe it was just the camera angle that made it look like he touched that wall.
I said he had grabbed that wall. He didn't come anywhere close. Yeah. Nico Gleicher, we've just seen 2 cousins go in a row. Now we're going to see 2 brothers consecutively. Gleicher 5th yesterday for Austria.
He carried a little bit of direction left down that start ramp. Again, it'll be minimized because of this race format with the start eye so low on the track, but it definitely didn't help him carry any speed. Seemed like his lines were a little bit off. He was getting a little bit, maybe a tad much early height in those labyrinth curves.
Nico finished 12th at the opening sprint race in November on this track in Eagles. Good line, good high line out of 10. Let's see if he can find his way back into the green. He's nearly a 10th back.
Yeah, late going into curve 11, and you saw that catch up going into curve 14, the finish curve.
It will be another disappointing sprint race for Nico, who finished 12th, then finished 8th in the other sprint just after podium position in the men's race.
You can see the lower labyrinth. Yep. But yeah, he was just offline in the lower labyrinth just a bit. Got late into curve 11, which compounds your problems in by the time you get to curve 13.
Now David Gleicher, 4th place finisher yesterday. He may have had the 2nd fastest run of the day. I didn't check the individual split times of run number 2, but he was, you were so impressed with how he looked yesterday.
Yeah, and he's looking great here. Just carrying as much speed as he possibly can. Not looking at all. This is very aggressive.
2 Gleichers, both the sons of a former World Cup race winner, Gerhard Gleicher. Trailing Fischnaller. Kevin Fischnaller put down a track record a few moments ago. Gleicher can catch him 300ths back.
Going to be tight.
And falling further back. So 400ths, Fischnaller's run looking better and better. And that supports my point to a degree, Gordy, where sometimes some unknown stars emerge in this sprint format.
Yeah, and Gleicher was actually within 0.008 of a second right around here, and then just bled off a little bit as the run wore on.
So Kevin Fischnaller knocking on the door of a podium. It would be his 2nd of the year. His other came in a sprint. Johannes Ludwig will certainly have something to say about that, ranked number 2 this year in the World Cup standings. And the Olympic bronze medalist into the green. Very good speed, 51.4 at the start clock.
I'm liking what I'm seeing here early onto curve 9.
And he falls into the red. Looking like advantage Italy at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. That mistake in curve 9 was costly, and he's a little bit off in the lower labyrinth as well.
Wow, it cost him several positions. It will be a top 7 at best for Johannes Ludwig. Kevin Fischnaller has made his way onto the podium for the 2nd time this season. And both were in sprints.
Yeah, here's the 8 to 9 transition where he just got a little too early, hit that right wall, and then got knocked down and collected height late at the end. He dealt with it beautifully, but definitely cost himself some time right there.
Zeman Pavlichenko from Russia, the second to last sled in today's event. He has a handful of victories, more than a handful, more than two, in fact, 12 in his World Cup career, and a few of those have been in the sprint format.
There's that start eye, that green flashing light that lets you know that the clock has begun.
51.2, the speed a little slower than Fischnaller, but look at that profile out of the Kreisel.
500ths up on Fischnaller.
Pavlichenko had a very legitimate shot of winning the race yesterday over Felix Locke before.
This is looking really nice. Looking really nice through the labyrinth. Oh, right along that left wall going to the finish.
Track record, of course, you need that to take over the lead, and Pavlichenko has done just that. 32.341, he is in first place. Fischnaller has guaranteed a podium position, and only one competitor remains.
Very nicely done. Look at that perfect form, not even looking to try and spot that exit out of curve 9. Bravery.
9 times this year, Felix Locke has stood at the top of the podium. 9 for 10 in his races. The only non-victory was a 5th place finish. That was at the last sprint event in Winterberg, Germany. Can he make it a magic number 10 here? He's already won the World Cup overall.
The lines and position thus far have been spot on for Locke. Look at that.
He's basically done nothing wrong all season long. That is an incredible streak of consistency, but he does fall into the red here.
0.02 of a second back. A slightly higher line in Kreisel than we've seen from other athletes.
Can
600 back. He's not going to do it. I don't think he's going to do it here, Tim.
So the Russian could be on his way to his first win of the year. Felix Locke does still earn the podium. He's got a 5th and now a 3rd to go along with his 9 victories. But congratulations to Russia's Zeman Pavlichenko, winning his 13th career World Cup race, his first of this season.
It's an exciting result for sure. Great to see Fischnaller up there, and I'm sure Felix is gutted with his worst performance of the season.
Well, he had a 5th.
Oh, right.
His other non-win was a 5th, but yes,
this is true.
You know you're having a good year when you hang your head with a 3rd place result.
And you could see where he actually lost it was outside of curve 9. The sled was actually in a skid, and he did a nice job to control it.
That was his coach and father, Norbert, putting up the 3 fingers. The athletes, that's the first thing you want to know when you get up off of that sled, and the coach is there to provide the answer.
He actually seemed pretty happy when he crossed the finish line.
Well, I mean, that's Luge, right, Gordy? As we check out these standings, congratulations to Fischnaller with his 2nd place finish, his 2nd podium this year. You know, it's all about a safe and smooth run in the end, right?
Yeah, definitely. No, he did a great job to save that run, and I think it was going to be very close at the bottom had he not made that mistake.
Fleischer with another 4th place finish, 2 4ths on his home track this weekend. And a look at all of the top 15 and their results. Now, in a moment, we're going to see